Hi, welcome back to episode 9 of Successful Kids, Successful Schools. I'm Penny.
I'm Bill Cecil.
And today we're going to talk about something that is, either the first or second most important aspect of my sense of education. And I'm going to start by saying, remember when I told you about this little pendant that's a black opal that was a rock that I fell in love with that cost way too much money? That we cracked it and I wear it all the time because if you look inside, you will see many, many magical colors, reds and greens and blues and purples. And if you just see it on the outside, it's dull and gray and boring. So this became my symbol of what I wanted to do with education. I wanted to look inside each kid and find all of their vibrant colors and bring them out. And Bill and I also made a commitment to one another that we were going to make sure that we were not going to get political in our episodes. We weren't going to go, this is bad, or this is good, or this is like, it's like, how do you deal with something when you're part of a system and you gotta, you go along with the system. It's not, we're going to fight this system. So we committed to, we're not going to be political and we're not going to talk about religion. But I am. Because I don't think I can make the point unless I do this. So I don't care what you believe. I don't care if you're a scientist who is an atheist. I don't care if you are, believe in a male God or a female God or divine intelligence or what you believe. Here's one thing that seems to be a fact. Every snowflake is different. Every single snowflake is different than every other snowflake. If you look at a litter of puppies, all those puppies are different. When people come to choose their puppy that they're going to get, they will spend hours looking at the personalities. It's like same dog, right? Same male, and every puppy has a different personality. So whether it's divine intelligence or God or whatever it is that you believe, or science, if that power can make every snowflake different, every puppy different, why would you not think that every child is unique and special in their own way? So that is the premise of this episode, is that even though we're building a team, even though we are talking about a shared vision, we're talking about unique individuals. We're talking about my sense of diversity. It isn't just what color are you, or what's your sexual preference, or what's your gender preference. We are talking about you are diverse because you are unique and special in your own right. I love that. That's why this is important to me. That's why education is important to me, because I am working with individual kids, but I'm helping them to create a common good, a way to work together. So I'm going to turn it over to Bill right now, because he has a phrase that he puts up on the wall. I've been in his classroom. I know his quotes. I used to write, and almost, I don't know if it was every day or every week, but regularly there'd be a new quote.
On the board, there was a quote of the day every single day.
Quote of the day.
We'd start our day with it.
Right. And every day that I'd come, I'd write in my journal, oh, quote, think about this, think about this. But he has a quote that I think is really important about the uniqueness of each individual and what happens when they work together. So I'm turning it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this topic means so much to me because, as I shared earlier, that I was compared to my sisters
Oh,
right at the
that's
beginning of
right.
my schooling, and it was in a negative way. And so I wasn't my sisters. They were so different than I was. I grew up with four siblings. We were all extremely different, even as adults. And that's what I think made my family so interesting and fun to be around because everybody was different and they added so much to the dynamics of our family. You know, sometimes we had battles over it when we were kids and stuff like that. We still do as adults once in a while. But yeah, it's definitely something that it means a lot to me because I did not like being compared to anyone else. Not because I didn't admire people or things like that. I'm talking about when you're being expected to be something you're not, or you're being told that you're not like so and so. And that, no matter how you phrase it, that's a put down.
Yes.
It is. And it digs deep to a little kid because you're still trying to figure out who you are. But you're already being told you're not good enough or you're not the right whatever.
You're not what we expected.
That's what I mean. You're not living up to, the standards. Right. And that to me was horrifying. And so I was very, very sensitive to that going into really, I think it's been with me my entire life. I try to treat people, I want to get to know you as a person. I don't want to get to know you as a stereotype or anything else, So I'm open to try to get to know everybody and find out what is their uniqueness and what makes them special. Because it is that uniqueness that makes them special, I think. And so, and here's the other thing too, is that kids are a work in progress. I am not the kid I was when I was 5 years old, hiding under a cupboard while my mom had friends over so I could play with my G.I. Joes in private. And, and even as a high school kid, I was always in the unfinished basement working out, or I even slept on a couch down there because I didn't want, I just needed my privacy. And so I wasn't very secure with myself, I think, And so we got to remember that who they are as kids, and when they make mistakes, that they're still going to, we don't know what they're going to become. And like I said at the beginning, nobody would have ever expected, I think, that I was going to go into teaching or that I was going to be still, fighting for educators and promoting it and loving talking about it at this age, And so, so I think that's important. So for uniqueness, I would tell my kids right off the bat exactly that. I would tell my kids, I didn't like being compared to other siblings. I didn't like being compared to other students because that's just as painful. And so I would say, so I want you all to know this, that I want to get to know you, who you are, not you compared to anybody else. And that includes this, there's no favorites in here, okay? Because I'm not a person that thinks that's a way to do it because then you turn everybody else off. Like then you're not important. You all are important to me because like I said, I can't have my best year ever unless you have your best year ever. And so my job, I'm here to help you be the best version of yourself that you can be, And so there's always room to, like I said, we're a work in progress. We can always try to get better, but it doesn't mean you're unique and special right now. And so that was a message I pounded away. And I took it a step further. I had that poster, which I would explain. And this was a 1950s poster I had in my room of kids from many different countries, and they were all in their native dress, and they were all standing next to each other. And it was like the little kids to the bigger kids. So it made like a little pyramid, right? And they were adorable. And it was kind of more like a black and white. It had a little bit of weird color to it, like a hint of color, but it was more just the way it was. And I just loved that poster because they were all smiling and they were all close to each other, and they looked like they were together like a team. And so it reminded me of
And they were all different.
And they were all different. And it goes back to when spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion, And so that's what I would use as a reference. Like, look at these people, they're different, and there's so many different ways. But guess what? We could take our own photo in here, and we may not be wearing the same type of clothes, but we're all very different too. And that, I want you guys to understand that. So the first big activity we would do would be like starting on day 2 or 3, I think. And what we would do is I'd bring in magazines and I'd say, I want you to make a collage of who you are to me. I want to have you cut out pictures, words, whatever you want to draw on. You can even draw on it, but you're going to put it on this piece of paper, and it's going to be about who you are, who you want me to know. And so it could be who you're going to become. It could be what you like to do now, what you're good at, what things you struggle with. It could be whatever you want it to be, but it defines you to me and to everybody else. So it's going to be a tough challenge. So you might want to start, and I had them do brainstorming activities. Like I'd ask them some questions, write down some things, because you might want to look for pictures like this. And then what I would do is I would put the collages together out in the hallway, and I'd make it into one big collage. And at the top, it said, identify our identities.
Oh, nice.
And so I'd say, don't tell your parents which one is yours, because open house was always the first week of school or sometime in there.
Uh-huh.
I say, when your parents come in tonight, you have an assignment. I want you to come with your parents. I want you to show them the collage, but don't say which one. Say, I want you to look at them and say, which one of those is me? And see if they can figure out which one is you.
And how many parents got it right? Did you ever know?
Most of them got it wrong, and the kids love that. They're like,
Really?
you don't even know. And I'd say, and if they don't know, you act like you're really hurt. Like, oh, you don't even know me, and they would laugh at that. So they were out there doing stuff like that. You don't know me. I'm so hurt. And then they'd laugh, and and then they'd show them, and they'd say, well, why did you pick that? Why did you put that picture? They're sitting out there getting to know their
That
kids.
is so interesting.
Yeah, and so it was awesome. And then what I told them as a group is that individually, you're unique, but together we're this team. Look at what we've made up. Look at
all these
differences. Exactly. And I'd leave it up all year long, or until I was told I had to take it down for whatever reason, because somebody else needed that space. But they absolutely took great pride in that. And we would refer to it often, like, don't forget, guys, go out there and look at our collage. We're all different, and so we have plenty of ways to solve this problem or to solve this challenge, or for your group to succeed in whatever I give you guys to do as a challenge and or a project. And so, so that was huge. And the biggest thing I had to do was when you have siblings, that's hard, because I know I had siblings and the teachers that I had before I had them, and what I got. And it bummed me out if I ever called a kid by their sibling's name, because that doesn't send a message that I'm seeing them as unique.
Right.
And I would tell them that there would be times where I might, because out of habit, because I know your last name, I might just say your first name and it's the wrong name. And I say, if I do that, I have a treat drawer down there in my file cabinet.
And you get it.
And I would say, you can open the drawer and grab a treat out, because I'm going to, until I do it right, which will only be about 2 or 3 times, because I don't have to buy more candy, but there's a candy drawer down there and you can go to it and pull out a treat. And so that would happen. And it would happen once or twice. I'd say, I'm so sorry. But then I'd say, get your treat. And they'd be okay with it. And they'd realize I really was serious about wanting to get to know their names, because that was important too, And so, and that was the other thing. I'd always try to get to know the kids' names within the first 2 days.
Yeah.
Which today I have a hard time remembering anybody's name, if it's even one person.
It's interesting because as a guest artist,
Yeah.
I would learn their names in the first 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it was actually, honestly, it was about control. Yeah. The one thing that I knew never to do in a class is to get upset at the whole class.
Yeah.
If somebody was doing something that was inappropriate, I would say, so-and-so, you need to cut that out, right? So I had to learn their names. And again, we talked about this last week, is that there's so many teachers that don't think it's important to know that your kids' names, and you get into January and the kids don't know each other's names.
Right.
I mean, a name is unique.
It is.
And it's always interesting. So my daughter's name is Susan Elizabeth. And I gave her Susan Elizabeth because you could make a million names from Susan.
Yeah.
And a million names from Elizabeth, So she could choose what she wanted to be called. And of course, Susan chose to be called Susan. And she would get so angry if somebody called her Sue. Well, Sue, and I'm not kidding. My daughter was you always thought she was the nicest kid in the world. But her whole body would bristle as she would say, my name is Susan. And I'm like, no, that is part of your identity. That's important. It's to know the uniqueness of a name.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always interesting when we talk, because I spent a lot of time in your classroom.
Yeah.
So I know really what a good teacher you were. But when we're doing this, I'm like, my God, it's magical. I mean, you just thought things out.
Every detail.
Every detail.
People say don't sweat the small stuff. I sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. And you did.
Yeah.
It's like, I got a game for that. I got an approach to that.
Yeah.
I've thought about that. It's like, it is so interesting, your commitment.
Oh, yeah. I still love to read about it and think about new ideas I would do if I was still in the classroom, because it's so much fun. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, oh, well, that's not working. How do I solve it?
Because it really was about customer service. It was, how can I make this the most unique experience you've ever had?
Yeah.
And then set the bar, hopefully, for people around me, that if they want to do it, they can ask me, what are you doing? Because I want my kids to behave more like that, without ever going out. I would never go out and say, look what I'm doing, look what I'm doing, you know?
Right.
I downplay it. But the thing is that I wanted them to see I had high standards for my students. And I had high standards for myself to treat them with the utmost respect.
That's what's really important, is that if something wasn't working, you would go, so how do I make it better? Right. I can fix this. Right. You know, I had a friend who was a teacher who thought I was an amazing teacher, whatever. And we co-taught for a while, and we'd be going down to class, and he'd say, well, what are we going to do today? I always had a lesson plan, mind you. I always had an idea what I was doing. And I'd go, yeah, well, we're going to just see how it goes. And he'd go, what? And I go, well, if it doesn't work, I'm going to change it. You know, if it's not working, I'm doing something different, because
bold. It's guts.
It's not working. So the idea of improvising, or going back and looking at the lesson and going, well, this didn't work, and I've got to, and I mean, sort of going away from uniqueness. So I want to go back to it, because I'm going to talk about what is crucial to me about what makes kids diverse and what makes kids different and unique. And that is their imagination. And it's one of our 4 skills, and we have skipped it, or I have brushed over it, because for me, it is the most important skill. If I can get them to use their imaginations, they will focus harder. They will listen better. They will observe more. They will cooperate more, because they are working together with joint imaginations. And I'm really focusing on this because I'm going to take my shot at testing, because testing is lower order thinking skills. It's all it is. It's identify, Bloom's taxonomy, okay? It barely gets to application, right? So it's lower order. Doesn't require imagination. Why doesn't it require imagination? It doesn't require imagination because you can't test it. You can't collect data on imagination. You can't say that person's imagination is better than that person's imagination. And here's a problem, and we want, whatever. You really can't do it, especially when they're little. Their imagination is theirs, right? It's unique. It's special. And it involves their genetic makeup, and all of their life experience is involved in their imagination. It's how you cannot think critically without imagination. You can't obviously think creatively without imagination. You can't work together to problem solve without joint imaginations. I cannot tell you how in the past 20 years we have turned things into obedience to what is the right answer. Right. I ended up teaching at a university, and nothing made me crazier than kids coming up and saying to me, well, what do you want me to say? And I would say, what do you want to say? No. What? Well, and they would say things like they were juniors and seniors, some of them, and they would say, I've never written a paper before. I'm like, you're a junior in college and you've never written a paper. It's yes, because it's Scantron tests. Everything is a Scantron test. So it's like, I am not challenging them to use their imaginations to think critically and to think creatively. So that's a huge gap in our education system. And nothing upsets me more than assuming that diversity, again, is a skin color or a sexual preference, when really diversity is how you think. Yeah. Your imagination is different than anybody else's. You are unique in this world because of your imagination. And we need desperately to get back to that in education.
I love that. I love that because what it says is too that there's unlimited potential in your imagination, that you can imagine. The world says this or that, and people say this, but you can take it anywhere
Right.
and imagine what you want the world to be, or what you want to be, or
unlimited potential. And I'm going, and again, I'm going to go back to, we are old, right? And Bill's not as old as me, but in the 90s, it was the dot-com period. And in the dot-com,
I remember that.
dot-com period was all about being entrepreneurial. I mean, in fifth grade, you had a business proposal, a business plan, right? And you created a product, and you sold, and you marketed the product, and you did all this stuff because the word for the 90s was entrepreneurial. People were going to use their imaginations to think outside the box and invent new things. And then 9/11 happened. And 9/11 happened, and we got scared, and everything became about, we're going to punish people unless everybody's like on the,
we're going to control everything.
Every third grader is going to take this test, and we're no child left behind. We're all going to be at the same place at the same time, which of course is absurd because we talked about Piaget and developmental psychology and concrete learning and versus abstract learning. I mean, they develop their brains at different times. So we were never, ever, ever going to have all these kids at the same place at the same time. And more important than that, we don't want them at the same place at the same time.
We squeezed all the fun out of education.
Oh, we did.
When we did that.
Yes.
And that's what the struggles are now.
You take imagination away from a kid, and all they are is obedient.
So I got to tell you a quick story.
Okay.
I think you're going to like this.
Okay.
It has a theater tie-in.
Okay.
Okay. So near the end of my career, I knew I was probably had a few years left, so I thought, it's a little risky. I'm going to try it. So I did a school musical with the music teacher and the band teacher, and they were going to do the musical part of this show. It was going to be a musical because parents love musicals. Right. It's a great show, and we'd already done 2 other ones that were fun, where we had popular songs, but they would dance to and they would sing to.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So I said, I want to write the script for this one. Can we? Because we had scripts before. I said, can I write a script for this one? They're like, I've never written a script, but can I write it? And they're like, yeah, go for it. So the name of the play was What If? And in my classroom every year, I did something called Invention Convention.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Where they would build projects that haven't been invented yet. Do you know how many of those projects they invented back in 5th grade that are now on the market that they would have made money had they? No, it was like, we're going to have car or things that fly in the air and take pictures, or we're going to have
drone. Oh my God.
Yeah, a drone, or we're going to have phones. You can just walk around wherever you go, because we had car phones then, but we didn't have free ranging phones.
Right.
And they would be, and so, but it was the most amazing thing, because they would work on these projects for a month, and they could work with partners, they could work by themselves, but they had an outline, they had to follow, like you have a blueprint, you got to have, but first you got to just imagine what it is, and they'd write about what this machine was going to do in their mind, and then they'd start to find a way to construct it, and then they would bring it in, and we would film it, and they would have an invention convention where they would come up and talk about the machine.
That's right.
So What If was a machine that it was based on Invention Convention. They start off in a classroom, and the classroom has color. It's bright. You see the classroom, the curtains open, and it's chairs, and the kids are sitting up, and they're all engaged. And the teacher says, kids, today we're going to start talking about this project, and we're going to have so much fun with it. And so we're going to get to that. I know you want to work on your Invention Convention, but we have some other fun things to do today. And she talks about what she's going to do that's engaging, and the kids are all intent, really focused. And then she says, okay, but first we have to go to pee. So everybody line up at the door. They walk out. The curtain closes. They go out the hallway. Opens back up, and it's 2 kids. They're like running back into the classroom. They're like, I want to see that What If machine. It's so big, because it's sitting over there in the corner. They pull it out to the center stage, so now it's the attraction. And they said, we've got to try this thing out. It looks so cool. Let's try it out. So they actually get in it, and it's actually a time machine that takes them back to a time or wherever they want to go. And so they go to a different place, and when they come out, their school's different. It's in the future. It's like, like another year ahead or 2 years ahead. They go in, and when they come out, the classroom's totally different. It's all black and white. There's nothing on the walls. They're all sitting and the teacher's up there walking the aisles going, okay, kids, here is your sheet. Today we're going to learn how to fill out a bubble sheet. Today we're working on the letter B. Today you're going to learn how to fill in B on the bubble sheet so that when we have our tests, you'll know how to do that correctly. You have to stay in the lines. Yesterday you did well with A. Today we're going to do B. We still have C and D to do tomorrow. So she's walking around really bored and the kids are just sitting there. Okay. And so then they start, and as you know, and they start filling them out. And then the kids are realizing, what's wrong with this place? The three kids are still dressed up in color uniforms and everybody else is in black and white. And they're like running around the classroom. They can't hear them or see them, but they're like, what's going on? Look at this. This is so boring. This is so boring, you know? And so long story short, they go on to figure out that testing is the worst thing you can do. And so they want to go back to a time when teachers let them do projects.
Totally. What? Oh my God. Yes.
I thought I was going to get killed for that. The administration loved it. They didn't even realize. I don't think they got it. They just thought it was a cute show.
No, but the thing is, secretly, they want the same thing.
I think they maybe
everything is top down.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes to them, and they're simply told, "You will do this," and they go, "We know it doesn't work, but what are we going to do?
Yeah.
You know, we aren't going to get our funding unless we follow the rules.
Yeah.
And we do these tests that we know don't work."
And there's a scene in the play where they're going to react to the song from what was it? But it's "We Don't Need No Education."
Yeah.
Okay, so they're doing that song, and it's "We don't need no education." And they're all sitting there, and the teachers are standing there, and they're swiping their books off the table, and then they're just doing their ovals. And if something else comes on their desk, they swipe it off, and they're just doing the ovals. And then they're at recess, and they're all just standing outside, and they're like the kids that are still from the future are like, "Come on, they don't even know how to play. Let's get them to play." So then there'd be some upbeat music, and they would get them running around.
You should have tried to produce that thing.
Oh my gosh! Well, it's not that good of a script, but I think it told a good story.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the point of this: is that we got to,
get back to imagination.
Yes.
And so we're going to be wrapping this up this way. The next 3 sessions are going to really be about using that imagination, bringing imagination back into the classroom. The what if script is a huge part of the program. We call it a liminal space. What if? Subjunctive world, your imaginary world. I also want to stress this, and I'm reading it. Elementary teachers need to see themselves as building a nation of serious young people who can participate in deliberative conversations. It's not about passing tests and all being at the same place at the same time. It's about thinking creatively about problem solving. It's about compromise. It's about sharing a common vision, common ideas, and you gotta have an imagination to do that.
And getting excited about the what ifs in the world.
And we love you that you're listening, and goodbye. Thank you.